Before I begin today's video, congratulations to Soundwave 334 and Legendary Adventure on winning the Repro Labels giveaway. Hilariously, YouTube likes to do this thing where if you change your YouTube handle at any point, it won't locate your comments anymore. So Legendary Adventure was really hard to confirm as a winner. But I realized I could locate the contest entries around theirs to hopefully find them. If that didn't work, I would have just assumed that they deleted their entry and found someone else to give the prize to. So I know you didn't have a lot of hope winning, and even after winning, you still almost didn't win. But, magically, you got your prize, my friend. And big thanks to Nemesis Saber 89 for lending me today's figure to review. Normally I decline if you offer to lend me a figure, because I don't want to waste your money or deprive you of your stuff for any duration, but this time, I really didn't want to own this thing before getting it in hand. Has that changed? Let's find out. It's Legacy Blitzwing, a figure I've been dreading since it was announced. One that everyone seems to agree sucks to look at, but never for the same reasons. And to be fair, in robot mode, it looks good. The purple may be a bit too dark. Hasbro is really loving doing this, from the multiple shockwaves to this guy. The purple they've been using is so dark it could be mistaken for black when it's in the shade. It's not supposed to be this color, but it looks good. The backpack is intense though. Spoilers, this is the entire damn tank mode folded up onto its back, and if I drove out one pin, I could completely separate the two alt nodes. This simultaneously feels like it's a reasonable size, and like it's also catastrophically too big. And the tiny little wings peeking out around the edges feel like an insult. I mean, were they even trying? This is the equivalent of those girls who put on cat ear headbands for Halloween and calls that a costume. You will notice that the Decepticon badge is damaged on this copy, and I have no idea how that happened. It seems like it just wasn't applied right from the factory, rather than at any point it getting scratched off. I do like the skirt though. I don't know why at some point the designer seemed to start treating this like it was some kind of sin. I think the integrated joints almost universally look worse. And I hate the step in this guy's thighs. What's the point of that? Did Blitzwing need knobbly knees? Also, why are they so over-detailed? Like the panel lining just doesn't even make sense. What's with the maple leaves hanging down from his short shorts? He looks like he's secretly a doodle bear underneath his armor. It's weird because the sculpting is so reserved everywhere else on his body. Why have one spot where they absolutely go to town? They almost feel like the thighs off some other dude. Imagine like a Maori-style warrior society, but instead of tattooing their faces, they only tattoo their thighs, and they walk around in Speedos everywhere to show it off. Terrifying. I'm not quite sure the cannon is supposed to flip back like this other than for storage, but if you're trying to be accurate, it needs to be extended, which this toy seems to not want you to do, and I think I can tell why, given the overcompensating nature of this absolute phallus hanging off of his backpack. I gotta say, I find it absolutely insulting that this is a leader figure when just a few, well, I guess 5 years ago, god damn it, I'm getting old. Just a few years ago, we got Blitzwing in Titan's Return, and it's like a third bigger overall. It's a head and a half taller and way more broad. Plus, for my money, it looks a lot cooler, and it feels plenty accurate as well. Voyager leader? No. Voyager leader. So, if the whole point of this thing was to make an updated, expensive version of the figure that's more accurate in robot mode, then congratulations, losers, you done fucked it up. Because this barely improves on anything while being almost twice as expensive, so I guess that's about the only thing they got right. It looks good like this. I'm not mad about its appearance, but I am mad about just about damn near everything else. This should have just been an upgrade on the TR figure, like the 86 Blur was, but instead, I think this is the most insanely wrong-headed figure I've ever handled. Not that the head is wrong, though, that part's great. And it's just about the only thing that I'd say is a categorical upgrade over the Titan's Return figure. Like, that thing came with the wrong colored face to begin with, and even though I painted over it with a much more appropriate color, it still looks kinda crappy, partially due to my paint job not being the best, but also just due to the sculpt. It's so soft and shitty. The new Legacy head is crisp and sharp. The paint is extremely well applied, and honestly, it's so clean looking, it's almost uncanny. Like, I look at it, and everything I see is as right as I could get it, but something about it feels wrong. And that's not due to the lack of purple on the sides of his head. Maybe it's just due to the fact that his face isn't quite square enough, but in any event, it's a good visage. It just creeps me out. So, it looks good. In robot mode. And that's about all it does well. Everything else sucks so much dick, it's like it's competing in the prostitute Olympics. Am I rushing through this review to get to the bad parts that I really want to rant about? Maybe. But now we're on to the accessories, and to be fair, some of this would actually be really good. He comes with two rifles that look nothing like the handgun that shot Optimus Prime to death, but are pretty cool looking just on their own, fit his aesthetic, and seem accurate. They're blast effect compatible, though once again, the pegs aren't long enough, so laugh too hard in their presence and the effects will fall off. He comes with a rubber sword that is just awful. I mean, this thing is just the worst. It's ugly, it's over-designed, a huge amount of it is not sharp, it's the exact opposite of Blitzwing's utilitarian design, and it's his. I think we all know that everyone would have thrown a fit if this wasn't included. It'd be a crime against Blitzwings, and at least it's painted. But then you get to these pieces of fucking garbage. These are basically the sole excuse for why this absolutely mid-Voyager is a leader, and they have got to be the most insulting bullshit Hasbro has ever pulled. I thought Earthrise Prime's trailer was bad. What even the fuck are these? Why does Blitzwing have giant laser hands? In what way do these suit him? They barely even fit. I figured out the best way to attach these is to actually stick them into the bottoms of the fists rather than the tops where they barely hold. But still, what the fuck? Their only saving grace is that these aren't intended to be the fists for Menasor, though his actual fists aren't much better. This is ridiculous. This is the stupidest bullshit Hasbro has ever pulled. Normally, their greed is at least explicable, but this is beyond the pale. This is the flimsiest possible justification they could have come up with. I'd be less insulted if they just didn't include these at all and charged the same price. Like, wow, you shouldn't have. Like, really, you shouldn't have bothered. The other accessories would be great, but the fists actually drag it down. They make this thing worse. It's like, here, you throw these away. Posability on this thing is okay. Some of it is good, some of it is awful in weird ways. Head has more than average up, a decent sideways tilt, and rotation. Shoulders pull a 90, but you can cheat it for a lot more. Though, due to the shoulder pads, there is a limit to that, and you can never get the arms all the way up. Where this really falls flat is that there is no way to get the arms back at all, unlike the vast majority of all figures. And they look short going forwards because of the shoulder pads. I think that this would have only been better if these parts were removed. Elbows pull like a 93, wrist swivel, and narcissa wrists, which you can use together to fake sword-wielding wrists. Legs kick forward great, out to the side okay, and back not nearly at all because of the butt plate that did not need to be here. Knees pull like a 110, and feet with pivot and ankle and toe down. So yeah, this isn't great. Normally, if a figure can't get any backwards range on the arms with wings like this, it's because the wings are in the way and they can't move. But these actually can move. So it's just the damn shoulder pads. This is the second time shoulder pads have completely sucked in Legacy, and the butt flap just didn't need to exist in the first place. Then we get to the transformation, and it's actually good. Like, really good. It's super fun. I really enjoy how the wings make up the panels that hold the legs together, and the way the bib for the robot mode forms the top of the alt mode. It's all clever and unique, the only reason I'd consider buying the figure, and it's just too damn bad that it's in service of this fucking piece of rancid shit left to fester in a humid crack in your walls so the smell pervades your home for the rest of your lives. I'm not even going to play around here. This sucks. This is by far its worst mode. I don't fucking care what you have to say about the jet mode. At least it's not this. It needed the tank deck for G1 accuracy. Unfortunately, this isn't accurate at all. Since in the show, this part was always almost 100% covered by a tan panel that's just not present here. And most egregiously of all, this is the fucking wrong tank! And I will freely admit that the tank that is here does look at least a little more like what it's supposed to than what I anticipated, but it's still not that tank. So, they put the worst thing they possibly could onto this tank to get G1 accuracy, and then completely failed to get G1 accuracy because they made it a different tank. And I might be disappointed if this was just the wrong tank, but I wouldn't be furious that they decided to ruin it in the name of G1 accuracy that they didn't get close to actually achieving. And had they actually achieved it, it would still be shit we didn't want in the first place. Even if they got this garbage right, it would be a black eye for the figure. It's hilarious. It actually looks better if you just leave the head hanging out there. This is yet another area where the Titan's Return figure was better, because it's exactly as much not the correct tank being an Abrams instead of a Type 74, but at least the Titan's Return figure looks like a real tank, and at least the most critical flaw of it can be both diminished by leaving out the feet, and wasn't something intentionally added in. If I ever wind up owning this one myself, I would be so tempted to saw off the cockpit. Speaking of the cockpit, transformation is once again very good. It's fun, interesting, it does several clever tricks, and while yeah, it winds up turning into a bad jet, at least the compromises for this weren't intentional. And it feels like it's referencing the toy, which if it is, it's doing a better job than the tank was referencing the show. And once again, the Titan's Return figure is just styling on this thing. I mean, for starters, the Titan's Return figure has no faux forming. The back wings become the jet wings. But secondly, the Legacy is a god-awful approximation of a Russian MiG that looks like it was drawn from memory by someone who didn't see the thing all that well in the first place. This is the 1700s European drawing of American alligators of MiGs. Meanwhile, the Titan's Return figure is just a near-flawless depiction of the old Soviet aircraft with the tank turret on the bottom. Is it super aerodynamic with the treads along the sides? No, but it's a hell of a lot more aerodynamic than the Legacy, who seems to have about twice as much of the tank on the underside. And at least here, the treads are facing down, so it can be used like a really aggressive set of landing gear. And that nose on the Legacy. This is the whippet of cockpits. I know it's toy accurate like that, but it's so goddamn ugly. And that's really the fucking takeaway, isn't it? These alt modes are hideous. One was just an awkward sculpt married to an extreme compromise. The other, though, was one of the most putridly bad ideas I've ever heard of. Done in the name of G1 accuracy no one wanted. These are the worst alt modes I've seen Hasbro do in years. Earthrise RC's alt mode laughs at this garbage. This is a joke. And I still don't understand how people can possibly think the jet mode is the worst one. And I hate to say it, or maybe I love it, but this figure kind of sucks. There are things to like. Robot mode looks really good. The transformations are really fun. The posability, while not good, isn't heinous. And the accessories are good once you get rid of the stupid Hulk hands. But while posability isn't bad, it's also not good. And the alt modes are the worst. The absolute worst. And the sad thing is that they didn't have to be. Sure, the jet mode was always going to wind up compromised on the design, but if they had done something, anything else with the cockpit, the tank mode could have been decent. Sure, it would have boosters on the back it shouldn't, but I'm okay with compromise for a triple changer. They could have had the front be nice and clean. Instead, they ruined it for something no one asked for and no one is happy about. I have yet to see a single person say anything better than, I'm able to ignore the tank dick. The Titans Return figure is 5 years old, $20 cheaper when it was at retail, and was just better. If you are a stickler for accuracy, the Legacy figure looks better in robot mode, but the Titans Return figure is pretty on par in terms of cool factor. If it had a waist, wrists, and ankle pivots, this would by far pose better because the arms and legs both have far more range. Transformations are almost equivalent, both being quite good, but the tank mode on the Titans Return figure is excellent, and the jet mode is fan-fucking-tastic, where this has a terrible jet and a worse tank. Look, there are only 2 reasons you should get this piece of crap. 1, you can't find the Titans Return figure anymore for a decent price, and that price is going to have to get pretty bad considering this is already $50 when it has no business being that. And 2, only if all you care about is the look of the robot mode. It looks good in that mode, and that's the nicest thing I have to say about it. All I have left for it after that is Venom. Oh my god, Legacy finally made an outright terrible figure! It's a miracle! And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please, share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.